Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks. We have a great episode for you. I'm Ben Steinberg. Joined with me, as always, is Andrew Rochford. Guys, NFL football this weekend and last night.
I was going to say, it's officially back, Stein. We are into the 2021 season. Got one game down.
It's freaking beautiful.
Might get a little emotional today as we're going to be previewing this big Week 1 slate. All the teams playing, of course, no bye weeks, Week 1.
Of
so
course, all those fantasy guys, keep everyone you drafted starting. There might be some injuries, though, that have come out, and we have some news that we'll let y'all know about a few players that are going to be questionable, some question marks, but pretty much everyone's going to be playing. Everyone's going to be giving their best, and this is the best part of the season, honestly. This and the playoffs, just because at this point everyone's gunning for it. It seems like almost everyone, with the exception of the Texans, have a chance.
You can maybe rule out a couple other teams.
Maybe the Lions, too, but it seems like everyone has a chance at this point, and the optimism is super high,
Well, and like I said, just with having all the teams play, when we'll be watching Red Zone on Sunday, and we're just going to have that full slate of 1 p.m. games. There's not going to be just 2 or 3 4 o'clock games playing. I think we got 5 games during that slate, all starting at 4:25. You don't have that random 4:05 start in there.
It's going to be football from wake up till bedtime. Honestly, sorry. I am literally getting choked up as I talk about it. Football from from wake up to bedtime on Sunday. And we got a Monday game for you. Only one Monday game, though, which is interesting.
I was going to say, usually they have the 2 Monday night games. You got one starting at 7, and then you got the West Coast one at 10 o'clock.
But Thursday is going to be starting next week. Obviously, we'll get into that next week. We did have a Thursday night game yesterday, even though it wasn't technically a Thursday night game. It was the NBC Sunday night crew.
Of course, I was going to say, with the opening kickoff, you have your A team out there getting the season started.
Al and Chris were out there, with all those guys, Michelle Tafoya and all them, to really send us into a great 2021 season, a season where fans are going to be back in the stadiums. We're going to see 2 new stadiums full with the SoFi and the Allegiant Stadium finally allowing fans and going to be completely full. So it's going to be exciting to see those, and we'll see that on Monday night when we'll talk about the Allegiant Stadium. But y'all, we did have a game last night, so let's get into that one.
Yeah, let's hop into that Thursday night football game, and what a great game we had to start off the season between the Bucs and the Cowboys. The Bucs come back. Well, they were ahead most of the game, and then they end up winning a final drive by Tom Brady, setting up a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, how many times have we said that before? It goes without being said, and everything about Brady, doesn't need to be said. Age 44 this season, just coming out and looking pretty sharp. I mean, did have the interceptions.
Yeah, but
not really his fault, though, I would say.
I was going to say the interception, one bounced off Fournette's fingertips, and then the
other one was
a
at the
Hail Mary.
end of the half. But, those do go on the record. And, I am not a Brady guy. I don't know about you, Roach, but
I love Brady.
I'm not on the Brady bandwagon. But it was funny, though, to see a guy who just seems to be getting better with age, like a fine wine. Another guy who seems to be getting better was Gronk.
Yeah, Gronk had a great game. I mean, that Brady-Gronk connection is still there. He had almost 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns on the night. Antonio Brown had a great game, over 100 yards, leading the team with a touchdown. Godwin had a good game. So
the only guy who didn't really contribute was pretty much the running game. And, I mean, that was kind of the story of the night is the running game. We'll talk about that in a sec, but also Mike Evans.
Yeah, Mike Evans, a disappearing act, which he'll do from time to time. Only 3 catches, 24 yards, wasn't targeted too much in the passing game, but he's going to have his boom-bust week, so he'll probably go out there next week and have 3 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns.
Yeah. Before we get into the Cowboys, Roach, I kind of want to talk about the Bucs defense a little bit. Front looked good. The front of the Bucs defense looked good. Kind of looked like...
Didn't have much pressure in the first half, but really in the second half...
Vita Vea was kind of a monster. I'm sure you saw that one play where they picked up, I think it was Tony Pollard, where Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh were both carrying him around. That just kind of shows how strong they are up front. Secondary wasn't looking great. They were having to play a lot.
That's what Jordan Whitehead wasn't playing, and then Sean Murphy-Bunting got hurt in the first or second drive of the game. So a little thin in the secondary, but I mean, overall,
Carlton Davis played well.
I was gonna say, I mean, overall, when we'll kind of segue into the Cowboys offense, like that with Dak being back and just all the weapons that they have on that side of the football, like that's still a top tier offense that you're going against, even though you have the great defense that the Bucs have. That's a premier offense.
Kind of a good segue into the Cowboys offense, which was one-dimensional to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the game as a whole, there was 882 total yards in the game. 770 of them came through the air. I think the Bucs and the Cowboys both had about 50, 60 yards on the ground. But yeah, when you talk about this Cowboys offense, they were trailing for the majority of the ball game. Dak threw the ball 58 times.
Yeah.
You went into halftime, Zeke only carried the ball 4 times. He had 11 rushes total on the night, so just a very one-dimensional in that game. You'll probably see going into the season that it'll be more even out. This is just one week.
The game planning, we kind of knew going in that the Bucs rush defense, especially from their numbers from last year, was stronger than their pass defense.
I would say they were the top rush defense.
The game plan was obviously to pass and not to rely on the rush because if you're rushing and you're only getting a yard or 2 per carry, you're going to have a lot of 3-and-outs. We saw that in the beginning, kind of, and then the offenses started picking up as the game went along.
Yeah, that's what any sort of Zeke owners, no need to worry after this
I don't think so
first
either.
week. I saw he outsnapped Pollard 70-20 on the night. Really, the biggest concern is that Pollard had like 4 or 5 receptions. Zeke only had 2 for like 6 yards. So in terms of that PPR work, it may not be as high of a ceiling you see in Zeke this year.
And even non-fantasy for Zeke, he was out there to block for a lot of plays. As you were saying, he had more snaps. So he was helping in that blocking game. And I just want to hang my hat on Dak for a second. He looked good for a guy who was questions about his shoulder all offseason. Obviously, the ankle is something else, but he was moving in the pocket well, making some great passes. My favorite pass was the pass to Gallup on the toe tap, when he dropped the snap. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that kind of early on in the ball game. But overall, I mean, just a great game for Dak, a great return for him. Like you said, there didn't seem to be any sort of issues with the shoulder, with the leg. Everything seemed to be going well for him last night, and hopefully it stays that way throughout the season.
And the head, it's a big mental game too, especially coming back from an injury. He kind of looked like a guy who's been there before, and we know he has. And you're going up against the Super Bowl champ, bring back 22 of 22 starters, and you're going against probably the greatest of all time quarterback, probably is the greatest of all time, and you just look calm, cool, and collected. I think if these teams play 10 times, I think it's a 5-5 split, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it. The Cowboys kind of surprised me with them being able to hang in it for most of the ball game, had that lead late in the ball game. But
even the Cowboys defense played decently. I would say the special teams was probably their biggest, faux pas.
Yeah, Greg Zuerlein had a rough night, missing the 31-yard field goal, missing an extra point in the ball game. He was actually closer on his 60-yard field goal than he was on the 31-yard attempt that went way wide left. So
yeah, people were wondering why they didn't try to throw it at the end, the half, and try to rely on Greg, who really wasn't looking good all game, missing an extra point and various field goals.
I saw something, Stein, where there was a special rule for a fantasy league where you actually get points for kickers missing kicks. So
wait, so your team gets points?
Yeah,
if you
your
have the
team.
kicker?
Yeah, so if your kicker, the goal is for them to miss kicks instead of make kicks. So someone had Greg Zuerlein on their team, and they ended up getting like 25 points from him because if you miss an extra point, it's like 15 points. If you miss a field goal, it's 5 points.
So who's got Cody Parkey in that league because they're winning it all?
I was gonna say they said that was the future of fantasy kickers to add them back into the league was to have them where they miss kicks is how you get points. But
I'm all for trying new things with fantasy. A lot of things have been happening with double tight end, premium, super flex stuff. But that kind of kicking stuff, that's interesting.
But that's what overall great first game, a great start to the season, being able to have a close game, have a game-winning drive, and just a game go down to the wire. So it really just kind of boosts us into this big Sunday slate that we've got. And let's hop right into it, Stein, with the first game that we're going to talk about. The Arizona Cardinals traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans.
Yes, so we got a West Coast team coming over to play the East and an interesting AFC-NFC matchup. You don't see them that early this year. You think divisional or maybe, within the conference this early. kind of a low key, sneaky good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, two really good offense. Of course, you got Kyler at quarterback for Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins, the addition of A.J. Green to that wide receiver core, and then on Tennessee's side, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, and then the addition of Julio Jones. So this is probably going to be a very high-scoring ball game.
Yeah, definitely going to be high-scoring. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the depleted Cardinals secondary, which really doesn't have anyone of note. So this is going to be a great game for A.J. Brown. Julio, probably a great debut, but we all know what's going to happen with this Tennessee offense, and that's going to be ground and pound with Derrick Henry, probably to set up the pass, I would think. You think they would use the run to set up the pass and let Tannehill, kind of work, but if the run's not working, that's when they'll probably go to the pass. But we know that they're going to be sticking with the pass, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this is going to be a game that comes down to the wire. Like I said, just two very high-powered offenses. Going to be a high-scoring game. But I've actually got the Cardinals going on the road and winning this game one. Stein. I don't know about it. It's gonna come down to the wire.
I love the J.J. Watt pickup for the Cardinals, and we already kind of talked how they are improving defensively. But that secondary, I think, is too young. I even think Watt could be a little bit run over. We could see one of those plays where Derrick Henry, runs over someone, a star, like we saw last year.
I mean, he's got a chance to do it just about every single time he touches the football.
Yeah, and I just think it's going to be too much for a young Arizona team, which I think is good. I'm not saying this Arizona team isn't good.
I mean, it's a tough matchup getting a playoff team first game of the season.
Yeah, I think, maybe this game might have been Arizona. The edge could have leaned, but it's in Tennessee. They're going to be rowdy. It's a city that loves its team, that's embraced what they're doing, and finally give them something to cheer about. I think Titans take this one in I would say a pretty close game, but not like coming down to the wire. I don't think.
That's what I think we mentioned this before, but what we're going to be doing throughout the season is picking the winners for each matchup each week, and then at the end of the week, we're actually going to have a list of punishments that whoever loses for that week is going to have to do a punishment, either chosen by the winner. We'll do like a wheel and have it spun and see what it lands on. So
I also think if we have ties, I think those should be settled by a coin toss. That's what they do in the NFL. When they have ties, they go into overtime, and pretty much whoever wins the coin toss usually wins the game. Our history with NFL overtime rules, but I think that would be funny if we did that. But,
yeah, well, we'll see what happens when we get down to a tiebreaker, but that's why we'll end up picking the winners to each of these ball games every single week, and then when we do our recap show on Monday or Tuesday, then we'll kind of tally up the scores, see who won for that week, and then of course we'll film that punishment
real quick
as well.
Fantasy implications for this game. I mean, like those,
just about everyone.
Yeah, I'd say the Titans receivers, pretty much everyone on offense for the Cardinals. I mean, like maybe running backs for the Cardinals, not so high on, but
I mean, Chase Edmonds, I would definitely start him in a flex position or a running back too, depending on where you've got him. James Conner, I would kind of stay away from week one just because you don't know how he's going to be used in this new offense.
Yeah.
But just about everyone else, you could pretty much
make
start.
a case for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to the Steelers taking on the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Pretty much on paper, this looks like a heavyweight AFC matchup, but it really isn't, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you have two playoff teams from last season. We talked about in our preview show about how the Steelers will kind of regress a little bit. This is kind of their do-or-die type season with Big Ben getting up there in age.
Yeah.
But for the Steelers, you will have Najee Harris debuting for the team. This is a team last season, the worst rushing attack in the league. Everyone was talking about it. So be able to see him probably getting the 3-down work for them, and it should be an exciting debut for him. But he's got to face a tough defense.
Yeah, I'd say this is
Bills.
Not a great defense to be starting out against. If you're playing the Bengals or something, that would have been a more favorable matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going against the Bills team at the Bills. It's going to be rowdy. We all know how Bills Mafia can get. Let's not discount this Bills offense with Josh Allen leading the charge. Running game, still a question.
Yeah, it's between Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, probably go with a little bit of a committee approach, and then Josh Allen, of course, with his legs, going to do his thing.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line of this game is that Steelers offensive line.
Yeah, just completely redoing the offensive line in the offseason. So Najee Harris, not only facing that Bills defense, but the new offensive line, so it could be some tough running lanes for him to start out the season.
Yeah, rookie running back with an offensive line that is pretty much predicted to be one of the worst. Not a great matchup. They will have TJ Watt, though, a very happy TJ Watt, as he just got paid.
Yeah, 4-year, $112 million extension, well deserved for him, as he had been quote unquote holding out this past preseason. $80 million guaranteed. That's the most for a defender past Joey Bosa's deal of $78 million guaranteed. So, like I said, just a well deserved deal for him, and just a little bit of a downgrade with the Steelers defense, losing guys like Bud Dupree and some other guys, but but still a pretty stout Steelers defense.
Yeah, they still have a decent defense, and I honestly think their defense is better than their offense at this point. And having Watt be, I guess, more comfortable with this deal, definitely will help them. But bottom line, that offensive line is just going to struggle all day, and I have the Bills taking this one, and probably more of a laugher.
Yeah, I think the Bills are a more overall just well-rounded team. Just when you talk about their offense and defense, we mentioned some of the concerns with the Steelers' offense. We didn't really mention their top 3 receivers, stud receivers there, but still overall, I think that Bills' defense is going to be a lot for the Steelers' offense, and then just Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs going to have a great day. So I've got the Bills winning this one as well.
Fantasy implications for this game: Harris probably going to be a good start. I think he's going to get a lot of touches. For the Pittsburgh receivers, I think it's kind of a pick one. I don't think you can pick all 3. I think you got to pick one of these guys and hope you get lucky, because I think one of them will have a good game and the other 2 will have Mike Evans-esque numbers.
Yeah, I think it'll be closer to 2 out of the 3 will have good games. Between Claypool, Juju, and Deontay, it's always been Juju's been like the odd man out when I've been drafting. So if I had to say any one guy, it'd be Juju, but he also gets a lot of those short routes. So in terms of PPR, he gets a lot of points. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think all 3 of them are gonna have great ball games.
No, and then on the Bills side of the ball, if you got Allen, the Bills running backs,
I would stay away from them.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit questionable, but Stephon Diggs, would be looking good.
Emmanuel Sanders is dealing with some sort of leg injury. I think he was a limited participant in practice today or yesterday. So look for him to be out there. If he is, he's a wide receiver too. So if he's not out there, Cole Beasley will definitely get a boost. If Sanders is out there, I'd kind of wait on him. Older guy, week 1, kind of banged up a little bit.
Yeah, I would say Diggs is definitely the MVP. Diggs and Allen are going to be the MVP of that offense. Yeah. All right, moving on to the Vikings at the Bengals. Another cross-conference battle. So
try and say that about 5 times fast.
I can't even try. You know me with pronunciations sometimes.
But that's what the big headliner for this game is going to be. 1, the return of Joe Burrow back from that horrific leg injury last season, and then the debut of his buddy Jamar Chase.
Regular season debut. Going up against Jordan Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
Sorry, I'm thinking of his brother. Excuse me. 2 J's. It can be hard. So with Jamar Chase, the news has been coming out. I don't know if you saw it, Roach, that he says the NFL football is harder to catch because of it's lacking the white stripes. And I think that's kind of funny, because that's kind of like a symbol of the NFL is the non-white stripe football. It's kind of like when you go to the next level, they take the stripes off. The training wheels are off per se. I still think Chase will be good. I don't think this is I don't think his preseason and his camps are any indication of his career trajectory. I think it's just kind of a minor setback for a guy who's going to come out there and probably be a number 1, not this season, but in the coming seasons.
Yeah, and even just not week 1, but could happen even just later on this season. But they do have a great receiving core when you talk about Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins also in the mix. So Joe Burrow definitely has plenty of passing options. Joe Mixon at the running back position. So
Mixon's going to be returning.
I was going to say, just this young Bengals offense, and then just a not very good defense against a very higher-powered Vikings offense. When you talk about Dalvin Cook, you said Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and then Kirk Cousins once again at quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of like a very young and not great defense against an offense that's going to be able to do what they want. Dalvin's going to have a day. You think Cousins not going to have to work too hard. It's going to be cool at the end of the game because all the LSU guys, will take a picture together. But, it's going to be a rough outing, and I hate it for Joe, but he's just going to have an upwards battle all day, and I think in the end the Vikings are going to take this one pretty easy, even though it is in Bengal land. So.
That's what I wouldn't be surprised to see a Bengals upset, but when you just break it down on the 2 sides of the football, I would say comparable defense or offense, the Vikings slightly better, and then just defense, I would say the Vikings have a much better defense than the Bengals do.
Yeah, they have, with better names with Barr and Harrison and with the inclusion of Pat Pete now in the second, another LSU guy. So that's just, like I said, it's just going to
add him to the list.
The LSU picture is going to be awesome. I think Thad Moss has been on the Bengals. So
I don't remember if he got waived or not in the final cuts, but he was on the Bengals in the preseason.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be on the field.
He might be on the practice squad now.
Yeah. But, it's going to be battle of LSU, and unfortunately the purple and gold will be taking this one.
Yeah, we both got the Vikings in that ball game. And then next up, we got the 49ers traveling to Detroit to face the lowly Lions. 49ers question at quarterback for week 1. So Jimmy G will be the starter week 1, according to Jimmy G earlier this week when asked about being the starter week 1. He said that he will be the starter. Of course, Trey Lance, after that injury in the final preseason game, has kind of been limited with his finger injury. So I think Jimmy G will end up being the starter. It's whether or not how much we'll see Trey Lance in that ball game. How many packages are set up for him? Will he be out there for a drive, a couple plays?
Yeah.
How many snaps will he get out there on the field?
This one could get ugly, pretty quickly for the Lions. We want to say that they'll be tenacious and have some grit.
That's 49ers 8-point favorite. That's like one of the highest ones for this week
on
the road.
We want to think Dan Campbell's going to be ready, but it's going to be rough for them, even though they are at home. Against these Niners have to come across the country, but when it's all said and done, I just think the Niners are a better team. I think everyone's going to be back for the Niners, who was pretty much out last year.
Yeah, that's what you think about it. You got Jared Goff making his team debut. Dan Campbell his coaching debut. Got to face off against that 49ers defense with all those guys coming back from the injuries last season. And then, like I said, even the 49ers offense, whoever's at quarterback, whether it be Jimmy G, Trey Lance, they have all the weapons around him against the Lions defense. It's going to be one of the worst in the league. So.
Yeah, and then you got, Jared Goff, who is, my opinion, one of the most boring quarterbacks on one of the most boring teams. I know Campbell's trying to make this team exciting, but, they're just in a gray city, and they wear great uniforms, Roach. This is, even though it's September and it's still hot out, this game's going to have feelings of, middle of November, and I think it's just going to be too much for the Niners. Too much for the Lions. Niners going to take this one pretty easy. DeAndre Swift, though, is a weapon.
Yeah, a weapon. That's what he is. He's been dealing with a groin injury throughout training camp. It looks like he's going to be out there and not be on any sort of snap count, and kind of had an interesting day yesterday on Twitter.
Yeah, really interesting. I did see something on Twitter myself of one of those kind of weird sports websites that were saying DeAndre Swift dealing with some kind of murder charge.
Yeah, something with a homicide and 911 got called.
Yeah, back in in Philly in the summer. We neither of us really know any kind of details, and obviously we can't speak on the case at all if there is a case.
I would say, that's what Dan Campbell apparently spoke to the media about it, and he said that it's pretty much a bunch of Twitter trolls kind of just making up headlines at this point. So there's nothing really to worry about if you're a DeAndre Swift owner in fantasy. But
I wouldn't try to get rid of him. I keep him, and if anything does more come out, maybe keep an eye on that. But I wouldn't be super worried.
Yeah, I don't think it should be anything more than just some fake Twitter headlines. But
yeah, just something for headlines. The Lions could use all the headlines that they can get this year.
But so we both
the Niners too.
I was gonna say we're both predicting the 49ers to win pretty convincingly.
Yeah, and really the fantasy implications in this game. Honestly, this is kind of a game I just stay away from overall in fantasy. Just because you don't know what the Niners quarterback's going to be.
I wouldn't go with either quarterback. If you pick Swift, you're probably going to have to play him just with the where you got him. TJ Hawkinson, yes. None of the receivers for the Lions.
Yeah.
And then I would start Ayuk. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, but it looks like he'll be out there. Debo, maybe, just depending on your wide receiver situation.
I guess
you're definitely starting Kittle.
Probably is Mozart and Kittle are probably the two safest starts, but other than that, I'd kind of stay away from this game overall.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Seahawks versus the Colts. Kind of a low-key interesting matchup. The fact that these teams, both playoff teams last year. Right? The Colts were playoff?
Yep, they were a playoff team last season.
Just trying to check myself, before I wreck myself.
Yeah, that's what, the Seahawks, they have pretty much everyone coming back from last season. They do have a new OC in Shane Waldron, but on the Colts side of the football, pretty much everyone they got the injury bug in training camp. Carson Wentz, Quentin Nelson, the list could go on and on about those guys, but it looks like most of their important guys are going to be out there for the game on Sunday, especially Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, we're going to get a chance to see Wentz's debut, in the regular season for the Colts, which will be awesome for a guy that, I think is a great story. Looking forward to seeing that. This one's pretty close. Honestly, I think this game could have been a primetime game just because of how good both of these teams can be. I think the Colts have a great defense. I think the Seahawks are pretty balanced overall. Defense is not as good as their offense could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm just don't expect much from Carson in his debut. I mean, like you said, against the Seahawks defense, that it's not the greatest, but it's definitely not the worst defense out there. Just with him not getting the reps in there because he had to recover from that foot injury.
Yeah.
Like I said, Quentin Nelson recovering from that too. T.Y. Hilton is on IR right now, so you're missing your leading receiver. You got a couple of young guys between Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell.
Yeah, so you got to rely on those guys who are both.
You'll have the great running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack returning from injury. So you definitely have the pieces there on offense, but I am just kind of tempering my expectations on Carson Wentz week 1. Not to say he won't have a great season, but I don't expect much from him just because he didn't get those offseason reps.
Yeah, that's not a terrible take. And you look at the Seahawks offense that they're going to have to go, that a strong Colts D is going to have to go against. And I just think the offense might be a little overpowering against this Colts D because you got DK and Lockett, the two-headed monster at receiver, Chris Carson running the ball, and of course Russell throwing back there. So I think the offense is going to be a little too much for a good Colts defense, but overall I have the Seahawks winning it.
Yeah, that's what I agree with you, Stein. I think the offense will be too much, and the Seahawks will end up winning this ball game in Indy.
Yeah, any fantasy implications really? Wentz. Honestly, Taylor's probably the only person.
I would say Taylor, maybe Michael Pittman, but anyone else on that Colts offense, I would honestly, Colts defense, it's probably the only defense you got, so you kind of got to start them. But
yeah, and then Seahawks, pretty much anyone works on that offense right now.
Yeah, I'd play Carson, I'd play Lockett, Metcalf, and you're playing Russell Wilson as well. So
yeah.
Moving on to the next game is probably the closest game, at least the closest line that we have. It's this
one can go either way.
Los Angeles Chargers, Washington Football Team. The line opened with the Chargers as a 1-point favorite, but now it's flipped over to Washington Football Team favored by a point at home, and that's because Austin Eckler might not play this week. He's been battling a hamstring injury, hasn't practiced the past 2 days. They say that they're optimistic he's going to be out there on Sunday, but even if he's out there, you got to wonder if he's going to be on a snap count and how effective he's going to be.
Yeah, you look at what's behind him, and you got like Larry Roundtree and stuff like that. So
yeah, they got Larry Roundtree, Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson. That's the other running back.
They have some guys that can run the ball, but this has kind of become Eckler's, running game.
And he battled injuries last season. He only played in a handful of games. He missed some time. So
yeah, and the big thing, for us is we both are really high on this Washington. At least I am. I don't know about you as much, Roach, but I really love this Washington Football Team defense.
Yeah, I grabbed them in one of my fantasy drafts a couple days ago.
I know. They're probably one or two off the board for defenses, and this defense is ridiculous. The Chargers defense is good, but not as ridiculous, I think, as this Washington Football Team defense is. Bosa and Derwin are awesome pieces. So we're going to see a good defensive battle there. Offensively, though, let's talk about the Washington offense. You got the debut of Ryan Fitz.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick making his debut. Pretty much everything the same after that between Gibson, McLaurin, both going to be out there. It actually was announced a couple hours. Yep, Logan Thomas as well. It was announced a couple hours ago, Stein, that Curtis Samuel being placed on IR. He had kind of been trending towards playing on Sunday. They said it was going to be kind of all or nothing, but I guess that groin injury was just too much. He didn't practice yesterday, so they placed him on IR. Going to miss the first 3 games of the season. Won't make his debut until a couple weeks in.
Yeah, kind of a hiccup for them with that because with Samuel and McLaurin, they were going to have a nice little 1-2 on an offense that's pretty much been ineffective for the past 3 or 4 years. I think Fitz is going to be a good fit for them, and I think he's going to be, Fitz. He's either good or he's terrible.
Either really good or really bad.
I think he's going to be good in this game, and I think the defense is going to be good. But I think Justin Herbert on that offense is going to be doing what he needs to be done, and that's why I have the Chargers winning this one.
Yeah, that's what I think. This is going to be another one of those where it's going to be a very close ball game once you get into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I'm just very concerned with the Austin Eckler injury, especially if he's not going to be out there. I'm going Washington football team. Even if he is out there, just because you don't know how limited he's going to be with the injury, I've got the Washington football team winning a close one. But I think this is going to be a very good game.
I mean, let's talk about, you look at that Washington front four, it's going to be better run defense. We could see a lot more passing from Herbert with some of the good receivers that he's got with Williams. And
Keenan Allen might get about 15 receptions.
So, especially if Eckler is going to be missing, so that could be play in their favor. But like I said, you and I are both kind of split on this one. I could make a case for Washington. You can make a case for the Chargers. So, it's like...
It should be a very entertaining football game.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Let's move on to the next game.
To a not entertaining game.
which is going to be the Jets and the Panthers, a Sam Darnold revenge game, the first game of the season.
Well, it's in Charlotte, so it's not like a super revenge game, but like,
But still playing his former team in the first game of the season.
I kind of wanted to see him back in New York, though, see if the fans give him a warm reception, but...
Oh, I'm sure they'd have something up their sleeve with some with the ghost and all that.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
But also a revenge game for Robbie Anderson.
That's true.
Left the team a couple seasons ago.
I was watching a video the other day, Urinating Tree, shout out to Urinating Tree, awesome. He kind of said the Panthers have become like a refugee camp for like players, which I thought was just like perfect for like guys who have just been scorned by other teams.
Yeah, they really are. And then you talk about like Arizona as being like the retirement home for teams. So they have been kind of getting that persona.
But one person who's not a refugee and that's hopefully going to be back in full action is Run CMC. Christian McCaffrey going to be going against a very young Jets defense.
Yeah, CMC is going to have a great game. Only playing in those 3 games last season. He's back fully healthy, and like I said, I think he's going to get a full workload. They're going to be leading this ball game, and he's just going to get a ton of fantasy points for you.
I mean, this Jets defense isn't bad. It's not the Jets defense. They got some pieces that can...
A lot of them are hurt, though, is the problem.
It isn't bad, but it's. I think it's not as bad as people think. But I think, with Christian McCaffrey back, I think this offense is going to run through him. Darnold's might pass it like 20 times, if that, because Christian McCaffrey is going to be having the majority of the workload. Jets on offense, though, it's going to be interesting. You got Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Zach Wilson making his NFL regular season debut. Robert Saleh making his coaching debut. And it came out today that Jamison Crowder, the leading receiver from last season for the Jets, is going to be out with COVID. So already some question marks at the wide receiver position for who Wilson's going to be able to throw to. You got Elijah Moore, another rookie, who's going to be making his debut.
Yeah, Michael Carter.
Yeah, Michael Carter on the run side of the football. Tevin Coleman is actually listed as the starter.
But I think we'll see. I think we'll see a mix of both.
You'll see about 4 guys end up playing in that ball game, but. Corey Davis also making his team debut.
True. So a lot of, pretty much all new faces for the Jets offense.
Which is kind of what you would expect, but I think it's going to be, the Panthers don't have a great defense, but so you could see one of those guys having a good game, but overall, when it comes down to it, the final score, I think we both got the Panthers winning this ball game.
These are 2 bad overall teams, like from the outside looking in, but the Panthers are just better in different ways. They're kind of like a year up on the Jets in terms of their rebuild and development. I think they're still missing the overall quarterback. They don't have the long-term answer. I think Darnold's more of a rental. But, they're just a year ahead where they need to be, and I think the Panthers get this done.
I think you're 100% right, Stein. Moving on to another pretty bad game, which is going to be the Jaguars and the Texans.
Just a terrible, finishing slate of games. These two, the Jets and Panthers, and then this game are going to be those 2 games on Red Zone that you're like, oh, yeah, those guys are playing.
I would say they'll show it twice throughout the 3 hours that they're actually
every
on.
other game will be in halftime, and they'll be like, well, we only have this game to show,
Yeah, but for the Jaguars, Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence both making their debuts. Of course, Trevor being the number 1 overall pick. Urban Meyer, I don't even want to call him the college football legend, the notable college football coach.
Well, that's just because you're Florida biased. 2 net champions with 2 different teams. I would say I don't even know how to describe Urban Meyer, honestly, at this point. I honestly think this is his very short tenure in the NFL. Start of a very short tenure in the NFL.
Yeah, we mentioned it during the Jaguars preview how we don't think that he's going to be there for the whole rebuild.
Yeah.
But this Jaguars team does have some promising pieces, some young pieces between Chenault, DJ Chark, James Robinson is going to get the majority of the running work with the Travis Etienne injury.
Yeah.
So they have some promising stuff on offense. Defense, kind of questionable.
Defense is going to be suspect.
But they are facing this Houston offense that's got Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback.
Yeah, and he's throwing to who? And he's giving the ball to who? Exactly.
Brandon Cooks and a bunch of other old guys.
Yeah, Mark Ingram. It's going to be a struggle for the Texans all year. This could be the start to an 0-16 or 0-17, crusade for them. Could be the worst record in NFL history, potentially, if they go 0-17. And what better team to start your losing crusade than the Jaguars, who pretty much lost every single game after they won the first game last year.
Not even pretty much. They went on a 15-game losing streak after.
Yeah, there's no pretty much about it. They did lose every single game.
They actually did
after.
that.
Yeah, so Jags start the season off with a W like they do last year. I don't want to say if that. We'll get through it when we talk about it throughout the season, how they do.
That'd be crazy being a one-win team winning the first game 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, and your one win is against divisional opponents, which is funny.
At least last year was against the Colts, a playoff team. But speaking of the quarterback for the Texans, everyone's expecting Deshaun Watson to be a healthy scratch for this ball game and kind of continue to be a healthy scratch.
Nothing's going to come down today, tomorrow from them about moving him. I know there's Eagles rumors, there's Dolphins rumors. I think those and Panthers rumors. But if any of that's going to happen, it's going to happen by weeks,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's move on to the 4:00 slate, Stein, and a good first game between the Browns and the Chiefs. Of course, a rematch from the divisional round last season where the Chiefs only won 22-17. It was a really good ball game. The Browns coming off their first playoff win in 25 years.
Yeah, this is that game that they wanted to put at primetime, but probably since the Chiefs have so many other games in primetime, they're like, all right. Well,
if it was the Cowboys, they would do it.
Yeah, it was Cowboys Chiefs or something, And, the Browns still not getting enough love from the league after all they've done. Mm-hmm. And this is a Browns team that I am in love with, Roach. I really love everything that they have.
I think a lot of people are in love with this Browns team. I mean, you've got Baker coming off a career year for him. The two-headed monster at running back between Chubb and Hunt.
The best offensive line in football right now. A receiving core where, I don't know if you got the news, but, Stefanski's talking about
I was going to say,
OBJ.
OBJ has been battling a knee injury. I'm not 100% sure if it's still the recovery from the ACL injury, but they're thinking he's going to be out there week 1. Once again, just one of those guys where it's if he's active, is he going to be on a snap count?
Yeah.
There's been all the rumors in the past saying that Baker kind of zeroes in on OBJ when he's out there and active, thinking he's got to get him the football. But overall, just still, even if OBJ isn't out there, still going to be a very high-powered Browns offense.
Yeah, and then the defensive side of the ball for the Browns, much improved, with Greg Newsome and just some other pieces.
They made some big splashes in the secondary, of course, in free agency, getting the 2 guys from the Rams.
Yeah, just kind of an improved defense, and that was pretty much their biggest weakness last year. So this Browns team is built to compete in the AFC, if not win this AFC. And what better first game than against the AFC champion of the Chiefs?
I was going to say, how about a nice first test for that defense and having to face Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce and company?
Exactly. It's going to be a hard-fought game, and this Chiefs team is pretty similar to what they've had. Pretty much the biggest change has been the offensive line for them. Mm-hmm. We saw the departure of both tackles.
I was going to say, but you could honestly say that it was probably an upgrade to the offensive line, even though they do lose the 2 veteran tackles.
Yeah. So, offensive and then defensively, they've kind of just been steady all the time. They haven't been super overpowering.
We mentioned they pretty much just don't give up as many points as the offense scores.
Exactly. And this one's going to come down to the wire. This is going to be a heavyweight battle.
I would say I think it'll be another close matchup, just like that 22-17 game you saw in the divisional round. But it looks like both you and I have the Chiefs end up winning this game.
Yeah, we're both going to predict the Chiefs. Fantasy implications: start everybody. Honestly, start everybody.
Yeah, I made the mistake of picking the Browns defense in a fantasy league, so I had to hurry up and drop them.
Yeah, so maybe not the defenses for either team because this game could be run up a little bit. But everyone on the offense start everyone.
Yeah, the only big question I would probably have is OBJ, just the health with him. Even if he's active, I don't know if I would start him. He's not that plug and play, just like put in your lineup and forget about it every single week that he was with the Giants and maybe his first season with the Browns.
And maybe the Browns tight ends. I don't know if Hooper or will be
with such a thin tight end position. I think Austin Hooper could at least get a stream.
Yeah.
Give him a little spot start.
Give him a look.
Yeah. Move on to the next game, which is a divisional battle between the Dolphins and the Patriots. The battle of the Alabama QB Stein is you got Tua in year 2, and then Mac Jones making his pro debut, being announced a couple weeks ago as a week 1 starter.
Roach, I told you this a few days ago. I said, whatever happened to those Alabama quarterbacks from all those teams that won the national championships?
When they used to be the whole run heavy approach and everything.
Now we're getting an influx of Alabama quarterbacks, and this is like the impetus when you have two guys who both won national championships coming together to battle for their respective AFC East teams. Battle of Tua versus Mac, kind of like two things to prove for both of these guys.
Yeah, Tua had that up and down season in year 1, so this is really a make or break for him. Of course, the Dolphins have said that they're interested in getting Deshaun Watson and trading Tua away.
And for Mac, this is to prove that the Patriots made the right decision in having him be the starter and releasing Cam. So, and kind of carrying, I guess, the mantle of the great Patriots quarterbacks that have come before him. So, we have the quarterback battle, and then we're going to, in terms of the coaching, Belichick disciples never do well against him.
Yeah, of course you have Bill versus one of his ex-assistants in Brian Flores, the Dolphins head coach. So like you said, Bill, it seems like is always kind of like the Nick Saban type thing, always killing some of those guys that used to be on his staff. But just another sort of matchup in between the two. Jalen Waddle, another guy from Alabama, he's making his debut with the Dolphins. So overall, the Dolphins, pretty good offense. We said it in the preview. It really just relies on what we're gonna get from Tua. They got all the wide receivers. They got a couple of decent running backs. So it just really depends how Tua ends up playing.
Definitely. This game's gonna kind of be on Tua. He's gonna go against a Patriots defense that is gonna get some
very
pieces
much
back.
Upgraded.
Yeah, get some pieces back and have some retooled, I should say. I was talking about the LSU game. This is kind of the Alabama game, with Dante Hightower, of course, on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Patriots offense, let's talk about that offense real quick.
Still don't have a great number of weapons.
Yeah, still don't have the running back's still a little bit in question.
Yeah, you got Damian Harris, another Alabama guy, as the running back 1 for the Patriots. The receiving core is very depleted. You already got N'Keal Harry on IR. Nelson Aguilar didn't practice on Thursday with an ankle injury, so he's kind of up in the air.
I guess
for
you got
week
Jacoby Myers. And
you got
stuff.
Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Gunnar Ojaleski, or however you pronounce his last name.
And then you have the two tight ends for the Patriots who could put in some work.
Yeah, it looks like Jonnu and Hunter Henry battled some injuries in training camp, but it looks like they're both going to be out there for week 1.
Yeah.
I think just divisional battle, two teams that know each other, that play each other twice a season. I think it's going to come down to being a close ball game, but I've got the Dolphins end up winning this ball game, Stein.
If it was Cam Newton probably starting, I might have had the Dolphins winning, but I think Mac's going to enjoy himself out there, and I think the Patriots are going to take this one just because Belichick is so good against his former coach assistants. So, I think it's going to be Mac, and I think this series for the season series is going to be a split. I think it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, that's what I'm just worried about Mac in his debut going against a good Dolphins defense, especially in the secondary.
An underrated Dolphins defense, I will say.
And then just talking about how they still didn't really make much of an upgrade at the receiver position in the offseason, might have a couple of the key guys out. So let's move on to the next game, which is going to be the Packers versus the Saints in Jacksonville. Was supposed to be in New Orleans. Hurricane Ida having to move that game. They will be playing in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's on the road to play Houston week 1. So overall, you got the Packers coming off the NFC Championship game last season, and then the Saints, another playoff team, but once again a team kind of like the Steelers that we expect a little bit of a regression from this season.
Yeah, and that's going to start with the Saints quarterback. I guess situation right now, Jameis will be the starter going into this game in Jacksonville. Weird weird scenario. All around.
Probably Taysom will be used either at quarterback or just in a Swiss Army knife role as a tight end.
He's a wildcat gadget.
Special teams, whatever it may be.
Everywhere. But the problem with this Saints offense is it's probably going to be one-dimensional.
It's Alvin Kamara and...
that's about it.
Yeah.
No tight ends. The receiving core is depleted without Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Traquan Smith has been battling a leg injury all through camp. Didn't practice on Thursday, so he's up in the air for Sunday.
Marquez Callaway is pretty much...
He's going to be the wide receiver one, a guy that late-round draft pick in the 2020 draft. Deontay Harris, who's really just a return specialist. So there's not much on that offensive side of the football besides Alvin Kamara. And then you look at the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, ending their feud, Aaron Jones getting re-signed, Devontae Adams, the number one receiver he was last season.
Good backup in A.J. Dillon, MVS, Lazard, Tanyan tight end. It's just a great offense and a good defense too. I still think they have pieces on defense with Kenny Clark and Jair Alexander. Mm-hmm. So it's just gonna be. The Saints team still has a good defense too, I will say, with Cam Jordan and their linebacking core is pretty good.
The Saints could play a very inspired game just with the hurricane and everything going on.
But, when it's all said and done, I think the Packers are going to be way too good for this team right now.
Just with what you're going to get from the Packers offense, it's a big question mark for the Saints offense. So I think that's why the Packers have the upper hand in this ball game.
Yeah, easy. And we both have the Packers going. Fantasy-wise, every single Packer starter, I would say, is a good position.
MVS, if you start him, you could hope for a long touchdown. I wouldn't necessarily start him, but Tunyon, Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers.
Those guys are
even
sure.
The Packers defense, I would start just because of the question mark on the Saints offense, and I wouldn't start anyone but Kamara.
Kamara, and maybe Winston if you have to, know. All right, moving on to the Broncos at the Giants. Our team, this game kind of snuck into the 4:25.
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup and just a whole lot of question marks really for both teams. So on the Broncos side of the football, they're going to have a new look offense when you talk about Teddy being announced a week one starter over Drew Lock. You got their second-round draft pick, Javonte Williams, probably going to split time with Melvin Gordon at the running back position. And then you got the return of Courtland Sutton after that ACL Achilles injury from last season, only played in a game or two, to team back up with Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant as some of the pass catchers in that offense.
Yeah, Broncos looking to kind of right the ship with Teddy Two Gloves at quarterback. Still not a fan of him. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the situation, I should say, because I would love to see Drew Lock turn it around, but Teddy Two Gloves.
I know you're a big Drew Lock guy.
Yeah. So Teddy will be leading that offense against a Giants offense that,
like I said,
there's some question marks.
I would say I mentioned just question marks all over this game. You've got between Saquon, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Evan Ingram, all battling injuries. Those first three guys with Saquon, Golladay, and Toney, I think all three of them are going to end up playing in the ball game. You still don't really know with Saquon if he's going to get his full allotment of carries.
He's going to be on a snap count. I think it's all but set in stone because
Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney probably going to be the same way because neither one of them really played in camp.
Yeah, and I heard on the radio a few days ago that that from the Giants camp that they said that they're thinking long term with Saquon, and when they say that they mean they don't want to have him out there running 30 times.
He's their franchise running back. He's still only 24, 25 years
still
old.
Got 4 or 5 more years of good running in him. So definitely going to be interesting. Defensively, it's kind of like who does either of these teams
24.
have? Who do either of these teams have defensively?
The Broncos, it's not the defense that they had when Manning was there and when they won the Super Bowl.
Von Miller's not the same.
They still have a decent defense, especially compared to the Giants, which I think is going to be maybe a bottom tier defense in the league.
Yeah.
So I think overall, when push comes to shove, when you talk about kind of comparable offenses, Broncos a little bit better defense. I've got the Broncos in this one. It looks like you've got them too.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I have the Broncos is probably because they have more weapons and a quarterback who. I want to put my trust in Jones, but this is going to be...
more competent quarterback.
Yeah, even though Teddy's been a backup. Fantasy-wise, let's talk about Saquon real quickly. What do you think?
You got it. I mean,
I have him.
I was gonna say in redraft you have to start him. If he's gonna be out there and playing, you got to start him just because he was your first round draft pick.
Yeah.
Kenny Galladay, I would not want to start him. He would be a desperation flex.
Yeah,
Tony, I'm not starting him.
You don't know what he's gonna do.
Daniel Jones, no. Evan Ingram, like I said, he's probably not gonna play. So Kyle Rudolph, I wouldn't start at tight end.
Yeah.
And then on the Broncos side of the football, wouldn't start Teddy. Wouldn't start either of their running backs.
But
Jerry Jeudy, a flex play.
Sutton, a flex play maybe, and then Fant, I think could be.
Fant's starting tight end because you probably draft him as your tight end one. So overall in fantasy, that's what it's breaking down to.
Yep.
Let's hop into that Sunday night game.
On time.
Yep.
The first, I guess, attended game in SoFi Stadium. Gorgeous stadium. I think their video board is smaller though than the one in Atlanta. Just want to say that.
Sneak that in there.
Yeah.
But you got the Bears and the Rams. This is the second biggest. With the Rams as a 7.5 point favorite. On the Bears side of the football, you got Andy Dalton making his first and in parentheses probably last start for the Bears. Of course, getting that handshake deal, being the week 1 starter for the team. And how about a treat of starting against that top Rams defense from last season?
Oh God, I wrote in the notes. I said an anemic offense versus a great defense. Just a recipe for disaster. In the first game in an attended stadium. That's going to be rocking. That's, they're going to be playing passionately for the city of LA, and it's going to be rough on a Bears offense that is really not going to get anything going overall.
Yeah, and then when you look on the Rams offense, you got Matthew Stafford making his team debut. Not having Cam Akers out there, but still got plenty of weapons with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. You got Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, Tyler Higbee. And Gerald Everett's gone, right?
Yeah, Gerald Everett's on the Seahawks now.
But you got Higbee, who's finally stepped into that tight end 1 role. So just a good offense, not a great offense. I still think there's a lot better NFC offenses, but I think this offense is going to be better than a Bears offense that, let's face it, with starting Andy Dalton. Maybe Fields isn't ready physically. Maybe he's not ready mentally, but this might be a mistake to start him.
Oh, it's 100% a mistake to start him. And like I said, I think you'll see Justin Fields out there as the starter very quickly and very early on into this season. So we both got the Rams winning this one as they just have the better offense, the better defense, the better overall team. You could even say coaching-wise.
I think the Rams defense is probably going to be my start of the week defensively for fantasy. I like all the Rams on offense. Maybe their running backs might stay away from because it might be a little bit of a committee to see till they know who sticks. Bears defense could still be a good start. The Bears still have a decent defense.
I would stay away from them. Just I like the Rams offense.
Maybe better matchup, wise. But I don't really. Maybe David Montgomery is the only person you stick with because
Montgomery and Allen Robinson, they should be trailing and throwing the ball a lot. So he's the only guy in the receiving core pretty much. So
yeah. Darnell Mooney now, and Cole Kmet now.
Mooney's actually been battling some injuries. Looks like he should play, but he has been banged up going into this game.
That's a good segue into our next game, injuries.
Because our Monday night game, we've got the Ravens and the Raiders.
About all the R's.
And the Ravens are on about their 18th string running back. Dobbins went down a couple weeks ago. Then you got Gus Edwards goes down along with Marcus Peters, both tearing their ACL. So
and then the other backup running back, Justice Hill.
Oh yeah, Justice Hill as well. Yeah, sorry about that.
Torn Achilles. Yep.
Yep. So you have a running back room of an undrafted 2020 free agent and Tyson Williams. And then the mashed up group of veterans with Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, and they also have Trenton Cannon on their team.
So 5 years ago, this running back room would be pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is we're in the year 2021. All those guys are 5 years older than 2016.
Yeah.
And the big question is going to be which of those guys is actually going to be, I guess, ready to start week 1 for them. They do have the extra day playing Monday night. But Tyson Williams, is definitely going to be active. Trenton Cannon's already on their active roster.
Yeah,
and
Latavius Murray got signed, not to the practice squad, but 1 year deal. So he'll be on the roster. but Le'Veon and Freeman are both kind of in limbo right now.
And that's what Harbaugh came out today and said, that Le'Veon was still kind of getting his feet under him and getting, I guess, used to this system. So for week 1, I'd say Tyson Williams is probably going to get the majority of the work, just because he's he's been on this team for more than 48 hours.
Yeah, he's the most tenured Ravens running back right now. And just poor JK, poor Hill, poor, Gus, all those guys. It sucks. Two knees and an Achilles, and then Marcus Peters, a veteran in their secondary, to go down back-to-back plays. We both probably got the alert yesterday.
Yeah, they ended their practice early.
Around this time yesterday. So just awful to see that. But, I still think the Ravens have good pieces still. You got Lamar, who's going to be leading that offense, in this game. You got Mark Andrews, and you got some young pass catchers who are ready, I think, to make some changes.
You'll have Marquise Brown out there, Sammy Watkins joining the team.
And
Bateman is on the IR to start the season, so but they do have a couple of decent weapons hoping to improve on their passing game from last season.
And they still have a good defense, even though they lose Marcus Peters. Still some decent pieces going up against a Raiders team that was kind of underrated last year.
Yeah, they were a 500 team last season. I mean, a decent offense led by Derek Carr. Of course, you got Darren Waller, top tier tight end. Yeah. The biggest question mark I've got for this Raiders team, besides their defense, on the offensive side of the ball, what the running back split's going to look like, because you signed the almost 1,000-yard rusher in Kenyon Drake to a decent contract. So how are they going to split work between Drake and Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, they're gonna have to split, and who are gonna be pretty much the pass catchers? You rely on Ruggs or something like that.
Yeah, you got Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfrow. That's their leading 3 wide receivers. So young guys, but really guys that
nobody who's a guaranteed name or anything. And then that Raiders defense, who we talked about, who's just never been good as much as they try to improve it. So it's like at this point, just focus on the offense, not try to improve that defense.
So overall, Stein, I had the Ravens originally, but just with all these running back injuries, I actually flipped my pick. The Raiders playing at home, playing in Vegas, that first game in Allegiant Stadium. I've got the Raiders actually coming away with the victory.
This is going to be a sexy matchup when you look at it. Both teams are going to seem fast. Black and silver
uniform battle.
Yeah, black and silver versus black and purple in a beautiful looking stadium. I mean, come on, that's just gorgeous all around. It's going to be a great Monday night game because I feel like these teams are a little bit more evenly matched, but I do think the Ravens are going to take this one. I don't think losing these running backs is going to be as much.
I mean, you do have Lamar's legs.
You plug and play with a lot of running backs, and so that's why I still think the Ravens are going to win. I still think their defense is better than the Raiders' offense. So gotcha. I got Ravens winning this one.
All right, one last game, Stein, that we've been putting off this whole show. People are probably like, wait a second, you guys missed a game during the 1 o'clock window.
Yeah, and I thought we could get out of it. With,
you thought I was going to forget about it, but not so fast, my friend.
Yes,
we've got that week 1 matchup, a rematch from a couple years ago, the Eagles and the Falcons. The Falcons a 3.5-point favorite at home. It's
interesting, starting off favorites at home against a Philly team that I don't think's that good. Personally,
this is 2 very similar teams in my book. I mean, you've got 2 new head coaches with Nick Sirianni, Arthur Smith, 2 new offensive weapons, the first-round picks, Kyle Pitts, Devontae Smith. You've got guys, just aging veterans on both sides, money tied up to them. So I think these are 2 very similar franchises, and it's kind of a coincidence they get matched up together week 1.
But one thing that's pretty different with these 2 teams is the quarterback. You got somebody who's unproven in Jalen Hurts going against a very proven Matt Ryan, and I think that's going to be the X factor. Is Matt's? We didn't see Matt at all during the preseason. We did see a little tiny tidbit,
one catch from Kyle
Pitts. I don't even think we saw Ridley out there. He might have been on a play, but I don't think he caught anything.
We saw Russell Gage was out there for that drive, but he didn't catch anything. Yeah,
Russell Gage. So Falcons offense going to be pretty much raring to go. Philly's offense, I really don't think has much, to be honest with you. I mean,
they got Miles Sanders. Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove. He definitely has the upside. We've talked about how bad the receiving core is. You got Devontae Smith, and that's about it. 2 great tight ends with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and then 2 defenses that neither one is very good.
Yeah, I do think the Philly has a better front against Atlanta. and a young offensive line for Atlanta. Jalen Mayfield is going to be getting, Matt Hennessy be getting experience. Those two guys are going to have some hard, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, those guys are going to hopefully not be feasting, but they could have a chance to go after Matt. This one's going to be a little bit close, but I do think that the Falcons offense is going to be stronger than the Philly offense, and that's why I have the Falcons winning this one. I hate to say it, I don't want to.
You don't want to jinx it, but
knock on wood.
Well, that's what I've also got the Falcons winning this one. I think this is just another one of those games where it's going to come down to the wire. Probably a game-winning field goal, game-winning touchdown in the final minutes of the ball game. But I do have the Falcons winning at home and going to 1-0 on the season.
Yeah. Fantasy implications. I think Devontae is going to be a great start.
I would start Devontae. I'd start Dallas Goedert. Start Jalen Hurts. And start Miles Sanders. And then on the Falcons side of the football, I would start Matt Ryan. I would
start Pitts.
And start Mike Davis.
Yeah, and then Gage, I probably would wait and see with him.
Yeah, Gage, if you're desperate at wide receiver, I think I would give him a start. But overall, just because of how bad these two defenses are, you could start just about anyone in fantasy.
I will say, and I hope I don't jinx anything, but very quiet out of both the Falcons camp in terms of any kind of injuries. So that's been very positive. I'm gonna knock on major wood right there.
Very big plus on that. But Stein, I looked at it. We got 4 games different going into this, so we could have a tie going into week 1. But like I said, whoever ends up losing this week 1 matchup will have some sort of punishment that we'll film during our recap show that'll come out either Monday or Tuesday. But that's going to do it for our week 1 preview. Enjoy this first week of football.
This was a fun time to preview, and I'm sure our next show will be recapping everything. Hopefully we'll be having some good results for the teams we like and our fantasy teams. I'm in a hole already. I will admit that, as I was affected by Gronk and CeeDee Lamb last night. Godwin helped me a little bit, but
definitely helps. So have a fun week 1, y'all. Good luck to your fantasy teams.
Enjoy your Sunday, honestly.
Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram at the Couch Quarterbacks. This has been the Couch Quarterbacks podcast, and we will see you on the flip side.
As Tyreek says, deuces.